this is Oliver with Just Call Ollie. I'm going to show you guys how to install a Vertiglide product. The one I'm going to be installing is actually an Alta product. So we're going to take a look at what we got, take a look at where it's going, and I'll walk you guys through the steps. So first of all, what you got to do is check the width and the height of the product. This one was actually ordered by somebody else. I'm just installing it. That's mostly what I do. So the biggest thing that you need to keep in mind for Vertiglides is your height. So this is 94.5. So even though it says 94.5, you're actually going to add a 1/2 inch to it. The reason for that is you want the ground clearance. You also want the bracket clearance on the bottom of the rail. I'll show you guys that when I get to it. But right now, so if you measured to the top of this trim, say that was your 94.5, you would actually have to order the shade at 94. If it's 95 inches tall, you order a shade 1/2 inch less. Again, that's so you have that ground clearance, and then also you want it flush with the trim. Don't really want to hang it just like a 1/2 inch above the trim. It's a pain, guys. A lot of times what happens is you get those brackets up there and half your bracket's on the trim, half of it's on the wall. If you are going to go above, just go like an inch above. Save yourself a lot of headache in the future. Let's go over hardware. So these are your end caps for your valance to put the returns on. These are the handles for your leading edge of the Vertiglide. I have 2 of them. This is a 2-way draw, so you'll see it when it goes up. These are your valance clips. So the C portion goes towards the headrail. It just kind of clicks on. The little tooth kind of gets caught, and then your valance actually clicks into this portion on this side. These are your brackets. So when these get mounted, you're going to mount them to the wall like this. The headrail is going to go connect to the top, and then it's going to swing back and click in and over those 2 little teeth on the bottom. I'll show you that when we get to it. Again, this is a 2-way stack, so I have a right and a left master carrier. The master carriers have a little spring mechanism on the back. I'll show you that. It's like this little tooth, and we'll get to it and I'll show you what that does. But the big thing to keep in mind with these is this does matter. Pay attention to these. Sometimes I ship the wrong one. I actually carry extras. Had it happen the other day. So this is a right stack. So what that means is there's an arrow on it. That arrow points towards the stack. So with that being said, this is your right hand, in case those of you who don't know your right from your left. Right side points this way. And the reason this is designed this way is you can imagine as this goes across the headrail, you're going to come to the end of the headrail and it's going to stop. If you flip this around, you're not going to get to the end of your headrail. It's pretty obvious which way it goes, but sometimes knowing why it is the way it is helps. You also have these little adjustments on the bottoms. So sometimes what happens is you put your headrail up, you put your fabric up, and then you're looking at your fabric like this on that leading edge. Sometimes that leading edge wants to either do this or it wants to do this. So what you can do is you adjust these screws, you loosen one, tighten the other. It will actually pivot this because of how the wheel is. So you can imagine as you tighten this screw right here, it's going to bring the wheel up, which means it's going to more or less tilt it like this. And if you loosen this one and tighten this one, it's going to do the opposite. So it's going to tilt it the other way. Do not back this out too far. They're a pain to get back in. So be careful when you're doing that. These are your clips for your stationary side. So you see this little clip spring again. So when it goes in, it's actually going to clip in to the back of the rail. So it clicks in like this. To put it in, you're going to more or less take your fabric, click it in like this, and then swing it back. And what that does is this portion gets stuck and this portion just gets pushed on the back of the rail. I'll show you a close-up of that here in a second. And I'll also show you how you use these 2 little holes. It's for these screws right there. So keep that in mind. This is the bracket for the base of your stationary panel. So what this does is it just slides into the headrail, You shoot a screw through it. It's nice because it acts as a little spacer. Or worst case scenario, if you want to, you can flip it around and not have a spacer. And I'll get to that when we get to it. And then you got your returns. So let's go over to the window and see what we get. All right, so brackets are up. I'll show you guys how this clips into your head rail. So you see this little prong right there? It's gonna slide into that first groove. And then you're gonna see on the back side. So imagine this is up against the wall, put it in at an angle, and then as you tilt it, it's gonna push these two little prongs down, and you're gonna snap in. That's what you're looking for. If you ever gotta take these out, just put a flat head right there. If you can see it, right there. And it'll pop off. A lot of times, if these aren't flat on the wall, this will not line up right here, and you kinda gotta sandwich it. And what happens there is, especially when you're doing drywall, when you look down the wall in drywall, it kind of does this. So you can imagine you have your clips every about 2 foot. So if you have a point here in your drywall and you have a point there and you have a point down there, when you go to put this head rail up against the wall, it's going to rock back and forth. It's not fun when it does. Usually what you have to do is you have to go to the low sides, put shims in them, keep it from rocking. Once you get it flat, it'll click in. It's pretty simple. If you're ever worried about if your drywall's bowed and you don't want to get up there and have your head rail, just bring it up and you're like, it won't click in, I can't get the click in. What you can do is take your head rail out of the packaging, use the back flat side, and don't quite put it in your bracket. Just put it right here on this little lip right here. And what you can do is you can push it up against it, hold it, and you can look down the line on these long ones and you can see, I have a little space here, it's rocking down here, vice versa, whatever. So when you put that head rail up there as a test, just as a flat surface, you can see shim here, whatever. So I'm gonna get that last bracket in, pop it up, click it in, we'll get to the next step. All right, so one thing to keep in mind is if you have a very long Vertiglide, what you can do is put your center bracket absolutely center. Nice thing about doing that is, say this is 60 inches, and say your shade hangs off, I'm just using arbitrary numbers, 20 inches. What you can do is measure from the edge, so 60 plus the 20, 80. Take your tape, measure 80 inches in, mark it, and just use a pencil, just make like a little arrow on the top of the head rail. Nobody's ever gonna see it. And then when you bring it up there, you know that arrow is gonna line up right where it needs to be. Get it in every time. You don't have to put it up, I'm a little over here, I gotta push it this way, or I'm a little over here, I gotta push it this way. Save you a lot of hassle. All right, so the head rail is up. It's all nice and clipped in. I got spoiled. They ordered this thing to line up directly with the trim. They didn't overlap at all. So sometimes that last trick's nice. Sometimes you don't need it. It's whatever. All right, so when you go to install these, whatever side's your side that the stack's gonna be on, you're gonna take this plate off. Sometimes what I like to do is, I am very terrible about losing screws or dropping them on the floor. So I'm gonna show you a trick real quick. If I can get this to come out. Loosen that one up. Loosen that up just a little bit. Yeah, that's what happens when you try to hold your camera and do multiple things. All right, so that's on a swivel now, just so I don't have to put it on a ladder and kind of worry about it later. So tighten that thing up, just kick it out of the way. So now you don't have to worry about holding it. I'll take that screw, usually if I have 2 hands, I'll pop it back in the rail where it goes, right here, just so you don't have random screws laying around. I used to lay them on top, every once in a while I bump them off, so just pop it back in. It takes 2 seconds. So plate, take the mill screw out, flip it around, tighten, put the screw back in. It'll hold it in place, and then it'll make the rest of the steps a lot easier. All right, so for this Alta vertical honeycomb, they do something kind of nice. They have this nice little sticker with the arrows on the stationary side. And most manufacturers do this. It's literally just telling you, hey, put your stationary bracket on before you put this fabric piece up on the headrail. It's not a suggestion, you have to do it. If you don't, you're never going to get this nice little bracket into place after the fact. So, this bracket is the J shape. You're probably wondering why it's a J shape. One of the nice things about it is you can orientate it towards the wall or this way. So what happens is it depends on if you have trim in the way. This one, I'm actually mounting on the trim. So what you can imagine is your head rail, if my pin wants to work, is like this. Once you get your fabric panel up, your fabric panel almost hangs right there. So you have this gap right here. If your shade is being mounted on the same surface as where the fabric's gonna go. So that space right there, if you orientate the J, guess what? It orientates it properly, and you maintain that space all the way down. Now, that being the case, say you have your wall and you have your trim. Say you're not mounting to the trim like I am this time. Say you're mounting up here, but say your bracket, for all intents and purposes, is actually up here. And I'll put a little teeth on it. So, with your head rail being here, and you may be wondering, well, why would you mount it there without a spacer or not bring it out? It actually works out pretty nice, because if you mount your head rail above the trim, that means this little gap doesn't exist, it goes away. So, that being said, your head rail mounts here, so you can imagine this is all void under your head rail, and your fabric comes down right along your trim. So, if you mount above the trim, and say the trim's like 3/4, a half inch, you don't have to use the spacer anymore. So, you go back to your bracket. In this case, it was mounted like this if you're mounting on the trim. If you're mounting above the trim and using those spacers, it's the same width as the trim. So now, it's gonna lay against the trim. So now you don't have any gap all the way along here, which is actually pretty nice. So, getting to this, we have to orientate a certain way for this job. So you see these nice little indentations on the extruded aluminum right here. I have to use the spacer, so I'm just gonna slide that puppy in. You can see it acts as a spacer. And just for posterity, for the other application, if you flip it the other way, that spacer goes away, but you can still mount a screw into it. So let's put it back the way I need it for this job. And there you go. Now, let's go install the other side, and I'll show you how that works. And you do want to install your bracket, or not your bracket, your carriers, your master carrier and your idle carrier. You're going to want to install those before you actually put your fabric up. So I'm going to go to the other end, and we're going to show you how to put those in and how they click in and what to do. All right, so here's our head rail end. Here I know it's a head rail end because you have your carriers. You also have your string mechanism that goes through it for the tensioner. This is your idle. This is your master for the side that you're actually going to pull on. This string side is the master carrier. It's the side that's actually going to operate. The side without the string is the idle side. Earlier, I was showing you these little brackets. They got this nice little piece of spring steel right here, that little clip. So what you're going to do is you're going to slide that in, and it clicks. Make sure it does click. You can see a little arrow goes through that hole, holds into place, not going to back out or anything. So, this was done on purpose, by the way. What's about to happen. This master carrier I have tampered with, and I can't do this one-handed, evidently. Give me one sec. Okay, so this master carrier slid in just like I did on that one. When it goes See if my tampering succeeds or not. Oh no, it did. See, it's not clicking. That happens from time to time. You're probably gonna hang one day if you do a lot of these and you're gonna be like, huh, that thing doesn't click in. What's up with that? Easy remedy. These little clips, even if they're properly seated, sometimes they move. And what happens is this doesn't go far enough in, so your hole's right here. It stops prematurely, you can't click it in. What they do is they make this nice little spring spot right here, and what that does is it catches and keeps this from moving either direction. Sometimes that little clip right here, that's supposed to keep it from, this whole piece of spring steel from moving. Sometimes it doesn't get seated, and sometimes even if it is, it still wants to move. So what you can do is you push that back, push it back into place. You can take a screwdriver if you really want to. You can take that little piece of spring steel and just push it down. And what that does is it kind of keeps it from pulling out this way. So, it wasn't clicking before. Let's see if it wants to click this time. Maybe. Oh no, it's still not clicking. Let's see if we get it. Push it one more time. It's still not clicking. Oh, there it goes. It finally went. Even if you push them, sometimes you get ones that don't want to click. When that happens, what you can do is you can actually go to the back side of this and take a screwdriver, and you can't see it very well. There we go. So you can take a screwdriver to the back of this, and you can see right there's where that pin gets hit. Not right there, it's up here, sorry. Right there. Trying to juggle multiple things with my hand. But if that little clip doesn't get pushed in, what you can do is you can take a driver bit, or you can take your screwdriver or whatever, just give it a nice little peck. And it should push it through that hole right there. Just in case it's not making sense, I'm gonna disengage it, so there, it's not pushed in. There, it clicked. So just pop it, it'll go. But make sure those are clicked. If those are not clicked into place, you're gonna have a bad day or a callback. So that's done. We're gonna go up to the shade. We're gonna pop this thing in. I'll show you how to put it in. In case you guys aren't using a drop cloth, I'm actually being somewhat bad right now. I'm not using one. In case you don't, just keep in mind, these things on the ends are really sharp. And if you bring that headrail up and you tilt this fabric panel up and then you're dragging this across the floor, that will gouge stuff like crazy. So keep that in mind. Usually what I'll do is, one, I'll put a drop cloth down. I'm just using cardboard today. But what I'll do is I'll tilt this thing up on this cardboard. That way this entire bottom assembly just hits the cardboard. It doesn't hit the floor. It'll keep it from scratching the floor. All right, I typically use 2 hands for this, so this is gonna be fun. Cardboard from earlier, don't scratch the floor. Sometimes different manufacturers, if you watch videos, they'll tell you just to put this master carrier in here, and then you hold your fabric and you push your fabric into the master carrier and you try to get that little clip to clip, and you're trying to juggle 50,000 things and the clippy doesn't work, and then you're taking your fabric down, then you're adjusting the clippy, yada, 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 yada. Sometimes you have to do it that way. You have to do it that way if you're doing an inside mount, because you can't access the end of the headrail. So inside mounts, yes, you do have to put your master carrier in first, and then you have to click your fabric into the master carrier. When you're doing the outside mount, I like shortcuts. I do a lot of these. I try to do them quick and efficient, and that way I'm using my time effectively. So what you're gonna do is get that little master carrier, not little, it's pretty big. Get that master carrier in that first groove. So master carrier back here, all your clips right here. Now, when you're installing all these little carriers, I'm gonna zoom for a second, you're gonna see 2 tracks. So let me get the pencil. This gets the black pieces. This track gets the clear pieces. One of the ways you can keep in mind in the future, if say the colors are different, whatever model you got, yada, yada, yada. Look at the actual carrier. This is a small C. This is a big C. So big C's go back here. Small C's can only go right here. So they're going to alternate them. So you're going to have track 1, track 2, track 1, track 2, track 1, track 2, yada, yada. So let's put my pen away for a second, see if I can do this one-handed. So there's your carrier, track 1. And let's get the clear one. And again, trying to do it one-handed is not fun. Let's get back focused. Track 2. Okay, I should have a black one. Again, trying to do it with the camera. Let's peek around. All right, again, this one's gonna go on track 1. And then clear one's gonna go on track 2. And then black one's gonna go on track 1 again. Sometimes I might have to turn them a little bit. Not a big deal. All right, so that's what it looks like. So black, clear, black. And then now we have the idle carrier. So back when I was talking about the idle carrier, if you're doing an inside mount, you have to push this side in first. So I'm gonna see if I can do it just for the sake of doing it for the video. So there we go. So you're gonna tilt it. So bring it up, click it on the lip. Let's get that out of the way. And then you're gonna tilt it back. When you tilt it back, you're gonna see this little portion right here pushes up against that extruded portion. So again, that's how you can do that. If you're doing an outside mount and you wanna just cheat a little bit, you can go back here and just slide it in. And you don't have to juggle everything, but you do have to push at an angle up and click it back. Again, if you're doing an inside mount application for this. If you're doing an outside mount like I am here, not a big deal. So that's all together. So push that. I'm gonna go ahead and swivel this down, fasten. You can put some of this little foam strip back in there. They give you some, kind of keeps the carriers from popping out. So put a nice little foam strip in there. It'll help you out. So I'll do that and then we'll show you how to string this thing. So funny enough, here I am at a rework for putting in some different colored fabric on the Vertiglide. I'm just gonna do a quick little addition to the video I'm currently working on. Inside mount head rail. Nice thing about this is you don't have to put this fabric stack in the head rail previously, clicking it in. It's a pain. They make this nice little cutout right here. So I'm gonna show you how to install this. And I'm gonna try to do it one-handed, so bear with the shaky camera. So you've got your leading carrier, like discussed previously. We're gonna line that up right there. So you line it in to the groove, push up. It should click into place. There it goes. There's your little spring clip. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna unfurl your fabric just a little bit. And then remember, big C is the clear pieces. Little C is the black pieces on this model. So little C on the front track. This goes in like that. And then big C on the back track. So you're just gonna continue to do that for all of them. Luckily, this is a pretty small unit. All right. So now that those are in, to get your idle stationary side in, again with that clip, you're gonna tilt it out. See if I can get a good video of this. Actually, let's go from the back. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So you tilt it in, and then when you push it back, See how it fits in there all nice and snug. And then you're just gonna put your 2 screws in, and that's how you do an inside mount for a vertical honeycomb. All right, one more thing before we string this. Let a little bit out of this, pull your fabric across, and then you're gonna see that idle carrier is gonna have those nice little 2 holes up at the top. So we're gonna see if I can magically do this one-handed and balance a screw. Hey, looky there. Happy little drills. Put your screw in, make sure that's flush, but you get the idea. I'm gonna take my camera down for a second, do the other one, but just put one in, don't tighten it necessarily all the way. Start your other one. The tension will help it from moving as you're tightening the other screw. So again, put it in a little loose, put this one in all the way, then go back to this and put it in. You'll just keep it from moving side to side as you're putting your screws in. Otherwise, when the screw spins, it acts as a wheel and pushes this side out, kind of like what it did right there. So just another helpful tip. All right, so both of those screws are in there. I'll have to go around with the magic greaser and clean this up a little bit. But screws are in for the idle side. So now what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to go down to the bottom. And I know it's off the cardboard right now, but it's also not moving around and scraping anything. We're gonna fasten that bottom bracket. All right, so here we are at the bottom of the idle side. Take your sticker off. Wish all stickers were that easy to remove. So back to our earlier conversation about the spacing for why you need to turn your idle end bracket for the bottom around depending on your application. You can tell in this one, there's that spacing I was talking about. So you can imagine if that headrail was up on the drywall, up above the trim, that spacing would be non-existent, but since it's applied like this, you have that spacing, it is what it is. You're gonna wanna carry all that spacing all the way down. And that's what that nice little J does, is it keeps that spacing. So before you do anything with your strings, and I repeat, before you do anything, do not touch your strings yet, leave them alone. You're gonna come down here, you're gonna shoot a screw through that and fixate it. And then when you're doing that, make sure it looks good all the way down. So get it positioned, shoot the screw through the bottom, and then we'll get to the next step. Nice little trick, side note. If you get a Vertiglide and for some reason it's ordered short and it doesn't go all the way to the end of the trim, I'll be honest guys, because of how that idle end bracket is secured right there, come on. You can push this over this way and fasten with your screws. And I will show you that actually real quick while I'm talking about it. If I can get it to work one-handed. So again, say designer, whoever orders this short and you want the fabric to cover all the way to the end of the trim. So let's say it was ordered, no, let's say not that bad. Let's say it was ordered like that and say your headrail ended right here. What you can do is you can gain a little bit. So we'll put it back where it was just to show you guys how much you can actually gain. I mean, that's like a good 3/4 of an inch. And if you look at your bracket is still all in that headrail. So you can gain quite a bit by off-centering it. That being said, I would not do this if you didn't have a valance. When you have a valance, you can offset it. This all gets covered by the valance. Nobody will ever see that. But it's a nice way to save a product. I mean, say it is ordered a little bit short in the width, specifically for vertical honeycombs. It's a good workaround. I've done in the past. People don't really notice, to be honest. Not that you're trying to be cheap or anything, but a lot of times it's easier just to move it. You never know. Designers, they're kind of happy when you can save the day like that. And to be honest, most homeowners don't care because again, it's a non-visual part of the shade and it doesn't cause any issue with the structural integrity of how everything's mounted. So keep it in mind, nice cool tip. So my cords are all nice and straight. they're separated. It's kind of nice that this is a double panel, and I get to show you guys this because it's a little bit different. So you can see those cords as they come out. You go and follow that headrail all the way down, and then you have all these new carriers in the way. You don't want to put them on the right side towards the outside. You want to put them on the inside. So you're gonna have to weave those two cords in right there. So they go back behind the carriers, just like that. You can see them right there. And then you're gonna keep them parallel, and you see those two little hooks. Those hooks are what you need to fish your line through. So you bring them up over the hook. Around here. Let me change hands real quick. I can show you. All right. So say you bring your cords out like this. So don't get them caught. Yeah. You're gonna see, you bring them up, and then you separate them out. Now, let's take two. Separate them out. There we go. So now that you got them separated out, what you're gonna do is now you see this little spot right here on the far left. You're gonna try to bring both your strings over that first loop. So let's see if I can do this one-handed. Sometimes you have to go back and separate them back out again once you get them over right here. So, and then go back here and give myself a little bit of slack. Usually what I'll do is I'll get it in that groove. Come on. Get in that first groove, put your finger on it. That way it doesn't move on you. So keep pressure on it. It's really hard to do one-handed. You can keep the thing on there, so there you go. So back here, strings are separated out. It goes through this groove right here. Once it goes through that groove, you're gonna bring it down around that, and then you're gonna bring it up around that. So again, they come out this side, go around. They're gonna go through this first slit. They're gonna come from the front, through the front slit, towards the outside, and back again and through. And you have to keep tension on those when we get to the next step. So one of the things I like to use to keep the tension is I've got some suture clamps. I'm gonna zoom out for a second. Suture clamps. I'll put a pair of suture clamps on here, click them, and then now I don't have to worry about my line coming loose or losing any of that cording. And then I gotta do the same thing for this cord here. I gotta fish it through that side. And then once I'm done with that, we'll get to the next step of these pieces right here. So let's get to it. So the nice thing about using suture clamps is I can actually keep them clamped and at least test this to make sure it moves okay. It's not getting any tangles or anything like that. It's one of the big advantages of getting yourself a pair of suture clamps, especially if you do these all the time. So back to the string bits. Let me get the end of this. So you're gonna notice at the end of your strings, you have these nice little donuts. You're gonna use one of them. You're not gonna use the other one. So what you're gonna do is the same way you strung all this before, you're kinda gonna have to redo it. I just showed it for an example. So I'm gonna cut one end, and then I'm going to pull the other end short. So if you got two strings, when it's not clamped and these are loose, you can pull one string and the other string will get shorter and shorter and shorter. It's because that string is just one continuous loop inside the whole piece of fabric. This is not two different strings. This is actually one string. So pull one, get the little donut all the way up, and then I'll show you the next step. So same step as before, bring the cord with the donut, bring it through that first slit, bring it through this, bring it down, and then back around. And here's from the other angle. So bring it through here. It's gonna come down through here, this slit. And then you're gonna take that same string, once it comes through that first slit, it's gonna come down here, through this front slit right here. And it's gonna come around the back and back out here. The reason I put my donut like that is because I gotta put that other cord the same path. And when you do, you put that top cord on top of that donut and it keeps that donut cinched down. And that donut is not gonna move once it's cinched down. The biggest callback people have a lot of times is either the knot on that donut comes loose, or this donut, they put it in this first slot right there and it just pops out, and then they lose tension and then their shade doesn't work. So do your donut first, put your other string on top of your donut string. It'll keep that donut in place very well. So that's how you get tension on it for the first go around. Now what you're gonna do is you're probably gonna make this go maybe short of half the length, and then you're gonna cut your string. You're gonna fish it through this part right here. I usually put a little fish knot on it, and I'll show you that after I get done. So here's my nice little fish knot. So if you're pulling your string from your stack on this side and your string is traveling this way, this is gonna slide out. Big thing to keep in mind is you don't want your string, so say that's your stack side, you want your string to pull off the front, not the same side as a stack. What that does is instead of this just being able to be pulled back, if you pull off the top right here, and then your string goes down and then back towards the stack, it causes this little plastic piece to pivot and put tension on it. So let's go ahead and cinch that way. And let's get this to focus. There you go. So off the front, it comes down, and then it pulls at an angle. So again, don't have it on this side, have it come off the face. Pull down at an angle, it'll pivot, and it locks into place. So now if I pull this, see how it stays? If you don't put your knot on right, this is just gonna pull like that. Well, right now, because it does have a lot of tension, but it's gonna pull back on you. One of the things that I do, since I do these every day, all day, is I'll push it out. You can tell it's kind of a tilt, but I don't ever want that thing to move, because if people go to operate this thing and this thing gives way, so say it zings back, of course now it's not going to. Say it does that, now the shade just, it won't stay open, it'll sling back. And then you have this random cord and people are like, hey, my cord broke. It's not their cord broke, it's their tensioner came undone. So pull that puppy out again. Maybe come on. There. So pull that out. Once I got it set to where I want it, usually what I'll do is I'll take a little screw and zoom in right here. Take a little screw, put it right in that first groove. And what that does is this tensioner will never swing back. You can push this tensioner that way to add tension, but you're never gonna have to worry about that flinging back. So pop a screw in it, it'll never move. Saves you a lot of headache. All right, So here we got the screw in place for that tensioner. So the string is coming from this left side, coming in, and then there's the tensioner, and you can tell that knot is on the opposite side of the tensioner for those who don't want to use a screw. It's got the handles to put on, so they actually put some nice pre-drilled holes in these handles. For that leading edge, you can tell there's 2 pre-drilled holes. Pretty much just goes on there like that. You put the screws in, pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna pop those on real quick, and then we're gonna put up the headrail. All right, so here's our valance clip for the returns. So you can kind of see how they go into their own little grooves. Make sure you follow the grooves, all that fun jazz. And then when you go to slide it in, just make sure they all line up. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes I'd like to go in pretty easily. And then at other times, they don't. And it takes a little bit of rocking back and forth. I'll do that here in a second. Headrail. That's all it is. So it just clicks on the top. Clicks on the bottom. You gotta take them off. Always pry off the top and kick them down. But yeah. So you can either attach them to the headrail first, or you can attach them to the valance first. I prefer to attach them to the valance because it's harder to click them to the valance than it is to the headrail. But that's just me. Do as you like. So if you want to put your valance on after the fact, what you're going to do is you're going to get that first top groove into your bracket. Trying to line all those up real quick. There we go. Get that in. Once you get that in, just click it back. And then you have it clicked into the bottom. You have it clicked into this top groove. And that's all it is.